Good morning, everybody. It's Anne Sinclair from the Digestive Detective. So I hope you're all going well this morning and you're not suffering too much anxiety over COVID-19. I know it's pretty crazy out there. I'm sorry for my strobe light today, but it's really rainy in Sydney and it's quite dark, so I had to have the lights on today. Or you'll think I hadn't paid the electricity bill. For those of you on my mailing list, I will be sending you out an update tomorrow of things that you can do to keep you and your family safe. So if you're not on my mailing list, go to www.digestivedetective and pop your name and address in the box and you'll receive something from me. I know we're in the middle of prebiotic month, though I thought I would just pop this in because it's Coeliac Awareness Week right now. And I think it's a big topic that is not talked about enough. So for those of you who are new to the page, I'm Anne Sinclair and I'm the Digestive Detective. Coeliac Awareness Week runs every year from the 13th of March until about the 20th of March. So it's a really important topic for the fact that there are still so many people that are undiagnosed. And it can be a life-threatening condition that has consequences over the longer term. So you really need to get tested properly and know what you're looking for. So good morning. Celiac disease is an autoimmune condition where the body has an abnormal response to gluten that's in our diet. So there's 1 in 70 people affected in Australia and 80% of those people are still yet undiagnosed. So you can see it's quite a lot when you run the numbers. So it tends to run in families. So if you have a mum, a dad, a sister, an auntie diagnosed, it's definitely worth getting yourself and your children tested. And I often hear people giving advice to avoid gluten, which is not good nor bad. But however, I think before you eliminate gluten for the long term, you should get tested for celiac disease. One of the reasons is if you're celiac, you need to know conclusively because it can be life-threatening. So the other thing is gluten is everywhere. So you need to completely eliminate it from your life if you're a celiac. So one of the most important things I hear people say to me all the time, it couldn't be celiac disease because I don't have any digestive symptoms. So that's not always the case. So some of the symptoms that you do see that are digestive are nauseousness, it's hard to say this morning, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, regular stomach cramps, like your kid wakes up and they've got stomach cramps over and over, bloating, iron and B12 deficiency, folic acid deficiency. Fatigue is huge, headaches and weight loss for some people. So there are many more symptoms, but they're just some of them. So you can see they're not all around just your digestive system. So for testing, the gold standard is a biopsy of your small intestines. So usually before that, the doctor will do a blood test. So the blood test that I would suggest you get is the gene test. While this test isn't conclusive that you have celiac test, if you've got some of the genes, you've got a greater chance of having celiac disease. It tends to be much more accurate than the other celiac test. So the gene test is called the HLA-DQ2 and 8. They're the genes you're looking for. Doctors can order that test. It's not a special test. The doctor can order it for you. So generally, if you are positive with the gene, you will then be referred on mostly for a small bowel biopsy. That's the gold standard. Not all GPs do that. They'll just go, no, you've got 4 of the genes, stop eating gluten forever. The other blood test is called transglutaminase. And so there's 2 here. Transglutaminase is 1 and deaminated gliadin peptide, IgG. That's a mouthful first thing in the morning. So for these tests to work properly, you need to be eating a substantial amount of gluten. So if you are not, these tests are not accurate. So that would be my tip. They often come up with false negatives, which is not good. So some conditions that are associated with celiac disease that they see are multiple sclerosis, neuropathies, epilepsy, depression, alopecia where your hair falls out, dental enamel defects. So if you've been to the dentist and they say, oh, you've got some dental enamel defects, think about celiac disease. Recurrent mouth ulcers, often I see that. Infertility, recurrent pneumonia, Down syndrome kids or Down syndrome people tend to have a higher risk of celiac disease, and something called Turner syndrome. So what is gluten? Because not many people seem to know what gluten is. So gluten's a protein in wheat that makes it really stretchy and really fluffy when it's cooked. So that's essentially all it is. It's just the protein. So there was a study that came out a couple of years ago about how a gluten-free diet was increasing the risk of type 2 diabetes. So the gluten-free diet that was represented in this study was not a great diet. So it was about lots of highly processed foods. So when they replace gluten, they have to add other things into it to make it taste good, which makes sense. So lots of sweeteners, lots of bad fats that you wouldn't want people to be eating. So this is one of the reasons that it was deemed unhealthy. And the other thing is it's really processed, and when things are really processed, most of the nutrition's gone out of it. So if you already have something like type 2 diabetes, eating gluten-free foods that are processed, probably not the best thing for you. So there are now more gluten-free foods available than ever before. You can get anything. And look, some of the bread products, they once used to be hard lumps. They're much more palatable now. I've actually even found a really good gluten-free sourdough, which is fantastic. So in my mind, a gluten-free diet can be really healthy. So plenty of fresh fruit and vegetables, the colour of the rainbow, small amounts of good quality meats, lots of wild-caught fish, some nuts, some gluten-free grains if you don't have cross-reactivity, so quinoa, chia, millet, all those sorts of things. Seeds are really good, and good oils. So that to me is a pretty healthy diet. You don't actually need so many processed packets. You know, you can make noodles out of zucchini and carrots and things like that nowadays with all these new fancy spiralizers and things. So before you race off and start a gluten-free diet or lifestyle, I'd love you to get tested to be sure. And you would be surprised where gluten hides. So the lickable strip that is on an envelope, a store-bought chicken, that beautiful crunchy skin that's on it, gluten in that, shampoos, conditioners, skincare products, medications. So you can see it's not just in pasta that gluten is, or in breads. It's basically everywhere. So my mantra here is test and don't guess with celiac disease. Your life could really depend on it. So do you know anybody that has celiac disease? How did they get tested? Have you seen the lifestyle implications that has on them? If you do know somebody, you'll know that it's quite a serious condition. So if you are unsure, if you have symptoms or you've been tested and that you think that you could have some of the symptoms, what a good thing to do would be to, I invite you to pop in for a free 15-minute or call for a free 15-minute consultation, and I can tell you what the tests are, and I can also organise the tests for you if your doctor won't do that. So I'll add the link here below to this Facebook Live. Have a fabulous day, and I will see you tomorrow for Transformation Tuesday. Look forward to it. Have a great day, guys.